Chapter 18, Page of Swords. Did your grandpa teach you how to lockpick, asked Oberon? No, I actually learned it in the police academy. Certain situations require stealth, and knowing how to lockpick is an important tool in our trade, said Kain. What else did you learn in the police academy? Asked Oberon. Arrest procedure, how to process evidence, how to drive a police car, as well as hand-to-hand combat, and how to shoot a gun and a taser, said Kain. Why did you become a police officer? Asked Oberon. I don't know, it seemed like the right idea at the time, but as of lately I've been having doubts about all my life choices, said Kain, sighing. Have you ever been shot at? Asked Oberon. A few times. I still haven't suffered a bullet wound yet, knock on wood, said Kain before knocking on wood. And most of the time I'm just driving around in my patrol car waiting for crimes to happen. It isn't an exciting job, but it pays the bill. And you, Oberon, how do you end up working as Spider-Man? You are not curious about my bouncer job, asked Oberon. You seem to like being Spider-Man more, said Kain. Spider-Man isn't the only superhero I play, said Oberon, smiling happily. I do a great Red Hood impersonation, but alas, Spider-Man is the flavor of the month, and you gotta give the crowd what they want. You still didn't answer my question, insisted Kain. Natasha got me the little sidekick, said Oberon before sighing. I do not know what would have become of me, and she wasn't always looking after me. Oberon pushed aside his empty plate, and Kain went to the kitchen to clean the dishes, and he also dusted and vacuumed and mopped the floor. And Oberon left the bed, he showered and got dressed to head out. The old itch was returning, and if he wasn't going to get any from Kain, he had no other choice but to go on the prowl. Feeling better? Asked Kain. That soup returned the soul to my body, said Oberon, and he took Kain's hand before saying, Thank you so much. I still think you should stay in bed, and your face still feels a little hot, said Kain, placing his hand on Oberon's forehead. I am fine, Kain, said Oberon dryly, and Kain brought out from his duffel bag a thermometer, and once Oberon was able to prove that he didn't have a fever, he was allowed to go out. Do you mind if we stop by my house first to get change? Asked Kain. What makes you think that I want you to tag along? Asked Oberon, narrowing his eyes. I see. Well, I will leave you alone then, said Kain before giving a fake smile. The two men went their separate ways, and with the Oberon situation seemingly resolved, Kain drove to Malice's house, and he allowed himself inside Malice's house using the house key, and the living room Malice's family was making small talk with Farley's. And in the garden, Ariel and Oberon and Oswald were playing catch with Malice. Hey, you made it, said Malice before throwing the ball at Kain. Kain caught it before throwing it to Oswald, and they played catch for a bit without having any meaningful conversations. They knew themselves to be watched, and the game came to an end when Malice's wrist began to act up, and his old sports injury tended to act up in cold temperatures, and Malice rubbed his wrist during the pain until the pain became tolerable. Is your brother's busted wrist the reason he never tried out for the major leagues? Asked Oswald. That and his busted knee and his rickety elbow, said Ariel, listing all of her brother's sports injuries. His injuries were starting to add up, so instead of breaking his body further for such little pay, my brother decided to make good use of his bachelor degree. So what do you play now? Asked Oswald. So what do you want to play now? Asked Oswald. Tag your it, said Ariel before running away. Inside the house, the other adults stopped the conversation to watch the children play, and Farley, frowning, said, Those two are such big babies, and one would think that men their age would be out clubbing instead of wasting their time playing children's games. You are an only child, Farley dear, so I do not expect you to understand the joys of playing with your younger siblings, said Nicole before sipping her judgmental tea. Nicole was 2 years older than Farley, and she was as skinny as the cigarettes she smoked. And there was a certain air of sophistication about the woman from her well-kept silver blonde hair, her thin lips, and frozen black eyes. Despite appearing cold, she was deeply devoted to her family, especially her son Oswald, and she was too used to her husband to bother to look for someone else, and she resented that her husband wasn't as invested as she was in raising their son. Oswald wasn't what his father considered interesting, so he would often put his police work over his relationship with his son. And now that Oswald had gotten a girlfriend, he had finally succeeded in getting his father's attention, for better or for worse. Oswald stopped running when he noticed that his father was watching, and he beckoned his girlfriend over. And Ariel stopped running before hopping over towards her boyfriend, and Oswald gently placed his hand under her chin to lift her face. And the two shared a kiss in front of their parents, and Ezra too stood up before Kirsty while Farley laughed heartily. And Nicole ran to the garden with her camera, and smiling she said, do it again, Oswald, and this time kiss her for longer so I can take a good picture. Oswald kissed Ariel again in order to amuse his mother, and Farley began to ponder on what was his son's appeal. Oswald wasn't certainly pretty, and he was overweight, though now that he had a girlfriend he was starting to take care of his body image, and his round face still retained a lot of childlike features despite being 14 years of age. "Ah, to be young and in love," said Malik, smiling sadly. He thought, "Enjoy while it lasts, little sister." "Miss Farley, and why do you allow Oswald to get a juvenile record?" asked Ariel, turning to face Nicole. "I know that he stole a car, but it was your car, and he already did community service. Isn't that punishment enough? If he has a juvie record, it is going to make it difficult for him to get into a good university." "How do you know that Oswald has a criminal record?" asked Nicole. "I checked his computer when he wasn't looking," lied Ariel, and she added, "I can show you the record if you don't believe me." Nicole went with Ariel to Kain's car, and Oswald smiled, seemingly completely amused by the situation, and Farley was completely oblivious to the nature of the conversation, and Nicole was indeed able to confirm the fact that her son had a juvenile record, and both maidens returned to the garden. "Don't make a big deal about it, Mom," said Oswald. He was relieved to know that his mother wasn't in on his father's schemes. "That is just making certain that I complete my community service." "Or maybe he wants to make certain you don't go to a good university," guessed Ariel. "Nonsense, we have been saving for Oswald's college since the moment he was born," scoffed Nicole, and she lighted up a cigarette before puffing 2 clouds of smoke, and she aimed them away from the children. "Then perhaps he doesn't have the leverage he once did," guessed Kain. "I'm going to call my uncle to see if we can get your son's juvie records expunged." Kain called his uncle, and his uncle called a friend, and that friend called another friend, and since this was Oswald's first offense, the friend of a friend expunged his records. And Nicole sighed with relief with the knowledge that her son now had a future. And Kain got a call from Oberon, and he ignored the call. He was angry about how Oberon had so callously dismissed him, and he had made him soup, he had cleaned his apartment, and all he got was a thank you and go away. "I don't need you anymore." The night progressed at a leisurely pace, and Kain showered before changing into one of Malik's outfits, and every so often he would get a call from Oberon, but he chose to ignore it. And while eating dinner, Kain left his cell phone behind in order to make a quick bathroom stop. And a curious Malik picked up the cell phone to see who was calling Kain, and all he heard was somebody sobbing. And Malik said before returning the cell phone to his owner, "One of your sobbing bitches is calling you, Kain." "Manners, Malik. We will not have any of your potty talk at the dinner table," said Ezra sternly. Kain took the cell phone and he went to the gardens to talk on the phone. "Whatever games you're playing at, I want you to know that I'm not amused." "Kain, I'm..." whispered Oberon. "If you can't talk, just tell me your address," said Kain, sighing wearily. And Oberon tested the address. His was in a small motel in Hialeah called Golden Slumber. "I am sorry, please excuse me, but I have to go." "Do you need my help?" asked Malik. What he really wanted to say, "Kain, please take me with you." Yes, this might be a two-person job, like Kain. Hopefully it won't take long. After a 20-minute drive, they arrived at the Golden Slumber. Kain double-checked his pistol while Malik took a few practice swings with his bat. They didn't know what to expect, and they were prepared to deal with the worst. Kain picked the lock before consciously entering within the bedroom, and Malik found the light switch, and the bed was a ruffled mess, and there was clothing lying about the floor. And other than that, there was nothing out of the ordinary. Malik checked the closet. Nobody was hiding there. The only other place left to check was the bathroom. And Kain opened the bathroom door, and Oberon was sitting inside the shower, and his body showed signs of wear and tear, but was more or less in one piece. "Kain, you came," said Oberon, getting out of the shower, and his smile immediately faded when he saw Malik. "And you brought a friend." "Stay where you are. I am going to collect evidence." "Nobody touch anything," said Kain, pushing Oberon back. Kain relaxed. "Nothing happened that was against my will," explained Oberon. "Then why are you crying?" asked Kain. "Because you didn't answer the phone the first time I called." "Not the second or even the third," said Oberon. "I am sorry for needlessly worrying you." "Oh, fuck this. I don't need this crap," barked Kain. He left the apartment and he got inside his car before driving away, and he didn't get far before he turned the car around, and Malik immediately got inside the car while Oberon stopped malingering for attention. Oberon got dressed and he checked out of the motel, and he sighed with relief when he saw that Kain hadn't left. "I am not leaving you until I see you home safely, or would you rather go to Natasha's house?" asked Kain after rolling down the window. "Natasha always forgets about me whenever she finds herself a new pet," said Oberon, pouting. "You don't know that for certain, and if you tell her that you're not feeling well, I am certain that she will drop everything to be by your side," said Kain. Kain guided Oberon to Natasha's duplex in Kendall, and the exterior was a yellow with white accents around the windows, and both doors of the duplex were blue. Oberon went with him, and the alarm sounded, and he punched in the password, and he found a note in the refrigerator. "I went joyriding with my boyfriend," wrote Natasha, and underneath the note there was a Polaroid of Natasha riding Jeremy's sweet chopper. "Well, I can say we tried," said Malik dryly. "Let's go home, Kain." "Stay with me," said Oberon, taking Kain's hand. "I was planning to spend my day with you, Oberon, but you told me to go to hell," said Kain, shaking his hand in order to get Oberon to let him go. "I didn't say hell," protested Oberon, now grabbing Kain's hand with both his own. "Look, Kain, I am sorry, alright? I don't know why I said what I said." "I think you do know, Oberon. You started the morning by pretending to be ill, and as soon as I fed you and cleaned your pigsty of an apartment, you dropped the act to go about your business, and now you're trying to manipulate me with your crocodile tears. Whatever is your problem today, leave me out of it," barked Kain, trying to dislodge the tick by the neck, but called Oberon. "Kain, please let me explain myself." I said Oberon. "You want to fuck, Kain, we know," said Malik, standing between Oberon and Kain. And Oberon released Kain's hand. "But since he wasn't giving you any, you tried a power play and it backfired. You can bitch and moan as much as you want, Oberon, but you're not sleeping with Kain tonight. Let's go, Kain." Malik pulled Kain by the elbow, and Kain lingered by the door, and he wanted to give Oberon a chance to recapitulate. And his silence confirmed Kain's suspicions. Oberon was only being nice to him to wear down his resistance. Kain sat down in the passenger seat of his car, and he wasn't in a driving mood, and Malik put on Kain's seatbelt before strapping himself down. "Can you take me home? I miss my father," said Kain. "You can see him in the morning. He's probably already asleep," said Malik while driving back to his own home. I suppose," sighed Kain. Malik, changing direction, said, "I know a really good prostitute that works nearby, and since I'm a regular customer, she gives me a good discount. Do you want to meet her?" "I'm not in the mood," said Kain before sighing again. "And what are you in the mood for?" asked Malik. "Nothing. Let's just go home. I have work tomorrow, and I need my beauty sleep," said Kain. "It isn't even 9, said Malik, and he was looking for an excuse now to go home. "And let's go to any random club to fool around for a couple of hours." "You are the driver, Malik. I will go wherever you take me," said Kain, sighing. Malik turned on the radio in order to lighten the mood, and he smiled when he heard the radio playing the song "Never Let Me Down Again" by Depeche Mode. The two arrived at the Blue Martini, and they killed 2 hours dancing with strange women. And before calling it a night, Malik made it with a maiden for half an hour. And he could have gone for longer, but he just wanted a quick endorphin boost, and since he wasn't allowed to drink anymore, Malik was substituting one vice for another. And during the half hour, Kain spent his time melancholically looking at the lake. And once Malik had his fill of fun, he returned home with his friend. And Rosanna offered her son a breathalyzer test, and she sighed with relief when the test proved that her son was sober. Malik didn't have a drinking problem, but since he partied a lot, he developed a reputation of being an alcoholic. The two men went to bed, and Kain tossed about for half an hour before opening his eyes. "Is something bothering you, Kain?" asked Malik. "Malik, do you really have a drinking problem?" asked Kain. "No, but you know how people are. You get drunk once, and that automatically makes you an alcoholic," said Malik, turning on the bed to face Kain. "Why didn't you tell your boss the truth?" asked Kain. "El ladrón juzga por su condición," said Malik. "I can talk to Michael if you want to. He knows me, he trusts me. I can make him understand the true nature of the malady that afflicts you," said Kain. "I prefer to be an alcoholic than a victim." Kain, "I wish I had never told you about that night, and I thought that if I had finally got that off my chest, that things would get better, but they didn't. They only got worse," and Malik drawing closer to embrace Kain. "I understand you, Malik, and every time Unla forces me to talk about my mother, I have to fight the urge to put one between my eyes," said Kain. "What did your mother do to you?" asked Malik. "Didn't your grandpa tell you my story? I always assumed that he did, to guilt you into being my friend," asked Kain. "Bella was only brought up once in our conversation, and my grandpa asked me to find you a girlfriend, and I told him that you were dead from the waist down. And I told him that you were dead from the waist down. You had never rented an adult movie, and the only data magazines were thoughtless gifts given by others. And if a girl paid you any attention, you would find an excuse to get away. Grandpa told me that your mom hit you really hard once, and she fancied that you were afraid of women," explained Malik. "I am not afraid, nor am I dead from the waist down," said Kim, absent-mindedly petting Malik's hair. And Malik sighed with relief before closing his eyes. "I can rise to the occasion if I need to, Malik." "If you need to, that sounds so dispassionate," said Malik, struggling. "Well, you know how it is. If you want a girlfriend, you need to mate with her, and there's no way of getting around that problem. And that is what is to be expected of me as a man," said Kain. "Poor Kain," said Malik before yawning. "Is that what Grandpa Raphael taught you, and he really screwed you up if you see sex as an obligation instead of a treat?" Kain said nothing, and Malik eventually fell asleep. Así no la chato, me va a encantar.